Boil the Frog. I'm Dennis McVicker, author of Boil the Frog. I'm going to go through a few topics today. Into the topics is uncommunicated expectations. And I swear I was prepared. And as soon as I started talking, it was like, okay, what uncommunicated expectations is about is I'm sure I would bet money on it that in about a million homes, there's couples irritated with each other because of uncommunicated expectations. And this plays into something I talked about before about the checklist about people with preconceived notions of who their spouse is going to be, either their husband or their wife is going to be. So they have that set in their mind usually for years, like, well, when I get married, my husband's going to do this. When I get married, my wife's going to do this. Unfortunately for both sides, is usually nobody says anything about that. Like, they don't communicate what they expect out of a partner, and that's what uncommunicated expectations is about. Is you may have an expectation of a certain behavior out of your spouse. Like, I expect them to do this and I expect them to do this all the time. But if you don't tell them that, they're not going to know that. They're not going to read your mind. It's a healthy way of establishing boundaries. And that's seemingly whenever boundaries are established on the man's side, the woman's side sees it as controlling. But if a woman establishes a boundary, it's a preference. So, first off, we could both agree that when an expectation is communicated, it should be taken seriously. Like, I wouldn't bring it up if it didn't mean anything, you know? Like, someone says something and they're like, "No, it's okay." It's like, "No, I'm bringing it up because it's not okay." And I'm trying to do it in a nice manner, or usually in an irritated manner, probably not a nice manner. But when you communicate an expectation, it's more like it's more like an agreement between the partners. Like, all right, you missed the hamper every time. All right, could you please not do that? Could you make sure your clothes land in the hamper? Can you make sure your cup is on a coaster? Those are little communicated expectations that men and women say. And as a partner, if you care for that person, and like, they're bringing it up for a reason, so you should listen. I mean, this will fit into what I talk about later, parallel universes, but trust me, it does. Because that's not what you think it is. But so, point being is, you got to ask yourself that question: is, are you communicating what you expect out of somebody? Or, start back over, are you irritated with your spouse for something that you have never communicated that you expect them to do? If it's just something you're just like, just, I don't know what it could be. It could be anything. I mean, me and Jen have been married over 10 years. So, I think Nate Bargatze did a good bit about this. He's like, we're in the double digit marriage fights. They're at this point, they're literally trying to just break your will to live with the nitpickiness with the fights. And I mean, it was really funny. Nate Bargatze is a super funny comedian. He's completely clean too, and that's a hard thing to do. He does not use any curse words at all ever, and probably he's definitely in the top three funniest guys right now. But that's the point. Is like little minor irritations over the years can really build up, and they can blow up. Like, just even like boil the frog just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and then eventually it's a lot. So if something's irritating you and you're not communicating that, now it's a choice for you to say that. But flip that around, if your partner continuously brings up that fact, you got to listen. Like your partners, this is a preference in the same house you live in. Like, can we do this and keep the peace? Like, just I don't need little minor irritants at home. So it's one thing to really consider and especially communicate and talk is that you need to communicate what you expect. Because if you don't and you're irritated at him for it, then that you really got no ground to stand. It's like, well, he's not doing what I thought a husband would do, but I never told him that's what I expect a husband to do. And the same thing the other way around. Like, as a husband, she's not doing what I would expect a wife to do. But if you haven't communicated that to her, you can't be mad at her for it. It's like you had in your head the person you were going to be with in your head for years. And so you're trying to make who you're with match that person, and that's not the way it works. Like, the person that was in your head is not who you're married to. Unless she is or he is, then congratulations. But then they would do what you expect them to do. You know what I mean? But or this came up. Remember, I think it was a Tom Holland and Jay Shetty interview, or they were discussing somebody else. I didn't catch the name of who quoted this, but it's what sparked this topic, and it was uncommunicated expectations are premeditated resentments. So that's what I've been saying is if you don't communicate to your partner what you think they should be doing, or they're doing something that you think that they shouldn't be doing and you didn't communicate that, then well that's a premeditated resentment. Like you were just waiting for them to fail and then fail your expectations which they didn't know about so you could resent them for it. That's why it's premeditated resentment. And that's where that topic came from. And I was like, that's pretty good. Like, I've seen it and I've experienced it. Like, she's like, you don't do this. And I'm like, well, you never told me. He's like, well, I expected you to. It's like, did you tell me that? It's like the other day I saw this woman saying, what did she say exactly? She's like, I'm gonna tell you a secret, and more than one woman knows this. And she's like, women don't say what they mean, they say what they feel. And then she's like, mind blown. And I'm like, well, you're doing it wrong. Your heart is in your chest, and your mind is in your face next to your mouth. So if your heart's coming out of your mouth instead of your brain coming out of your mouth, you're doing it wrong. Say what you mean. She was so proud of that insight. She's like, oh, mind blown. I'm like, that's not bragging time. That's now you do that. So you're making the choice to confuse people by saying what you feel instead of saying what you mean. So now you're choosing to do that. You know you're doing that. So now it's a choice. So fix it. Say what you mean, don't say what you feel. That I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't even know what that means. I mean, they don't say what they mean, they say what they feel. I was like, I don't understand what you mean. I guess I got to be a woman to understand that, but say what you mean. Also, what sparked that topic? Moving on. What's great about the right mindset is you start seeing other people with it, like Gary Vee and Billy Carson. Last couple days, I've seen reels of theirs, and they're literal my thoughts, things that I thought and never said out loud before. were coming out of these, they were saying them. I'm like, I have had those like almost verbatim exact thoughts. But Gary V, I don't want to butcher it, but it's like Gary Vanderchuck, Gary Vanderchuck. That's what he calls himself, Gary V. So he's got a podcast. I think he's probably about the same as me. I don't know, but irregardlessly, yeah, three in a row, 3 episodes in a row. I slipped that in there. I have been watching The Sopranos lately. You matter, okay? Two things about Gary V in that specific topic. That little black stuff. That's like my chair falling apart from my cat. Thanks, Cookie. Appreciate that. You matter. Two instances of Gary V in that topic alone was I saw him talking to a young lady, and she began with, I know someday I'm going to be somebody. And he said, stop, stop, stop. You are somebody right now. You are somebody right now. Everybody needs to hear that because it's, she immediately started like tearing up, like, oh my God, thank you. And that was terrific. I like reels like that where they're just like, oh my God. But he's like, yeah, you matter. You are someone right now. Just because everyone doesn't know about you, you are somebody. And the second reason is, like I said, things, when you have the same mindset as other guys, it keeps coming up and you keep seeing what they see. And I probably say what they thought and they say what I think. Like, he was like, what is your, to win the lottery, the Mega Millions, it's in most states by now, but lottery, Mega Millions, whatever. It's about 198 million to 1. So that's pretty lucky if you win it. And I think most people, if you ask them, if you won the lottery, how happy would you be? Like, could anything bring you down? Nothing can bring you down. Most people say yes. If I won the lottery, I'd be on cloud nine. Like, nothing could touch me. I'd be happy. I'd be unbelievably out of my mind, crazy happy about that. Okay, that's 198 million to 1 that happens. So the question is, well, what if you couldn't get up the next day? That was your last day on Earth. They'd be like, well, no. They would absolutely not. They would, well, I would say most people would. I'd say it's 198 million to 1 that someone wouldn't say no to that. They'd rather live a day as a lottery winner or, like Shrek, his last day. After that, you're dead. Most people would say no. I'm kind of trailing and I apologize. But the reason I brought up Gary Vee is twice. First thing is you matter. You're somebody right now. And he also said, I mean, even today I saw this and I'm like, man, I was gonna do that today. That was in my video tonight. And I saw a reel of Gary Vee saying, the odds of you even existing, like living a life, is 400 trillion to 1. And that buries the odds of winning the lottery. So if you could be on cloud nine by winning the lottery, but you would give it up just to keep living, then you need to have perspective of about the odds of you even existing and what a gift you have of life. 400 trillion to 1. Think 400 trillion names in a hat, and someone reached in and pulled you out, and you exist. That's pretty lucky. So keep that in your mindset and be grateful. Like, that's the part that you matter. Is some people have major accomplishments and they're adored and they have lots of money, they have lots of popularity, they have lots of fame. It's like, well, that's the top echelon of human beings. Okay, yeah, I get that. But just to be alive and be okay, like have food, have shelter, like even that is even higher odds than just existing. So it's a exercise in perspective, it's an exercise in gratefulness. Something to think about. All right. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but buckle up because that's why I skipped it last time and changed the topics at the last second because it's something I was telling Jen last night. Is like if you go all the way sane in a crazy world, you're gonna sound crazy, and then you're gonna start saying weird stuff that people are gonna be like, he's a little bit nuts. So I mean, you gotta push it to the edge, though. I guess let's go for it. All right, parallel universes. I have somewhere to go with this. I'm not sure really quite how to get there though. But if you think about everyone's perception, everyone has their own parallel universe because no two people, even identical twins, have never had the exact same experience as you. So, what your universe is made of is your perception of it and your understanding of the truth of it. If you have experience, then that's going to alter your perception. And that's going to alter your version of the truth. And you're going to create your own universe. And this falls back to um, arguments and discussions when they're relatively sensitive topics like politics or religion. And it's at the point where some people get into heated arguments. I mean, wars have been about religion, wars have been about politics. It's like, it's why they get in such a heated debate about it is what you experience is the fabric of your truth, is the fabric of your universe. So if you have completely opposite experiences from somebody else and you are arguing, which I don't do, I don't argue. Let me let me go back a little bit. I don't argue with anybody. I will say if they disagree with me, I will say, well, I will ask, do you have the stance that this is a discussion or an argument, or are you trying to alter my perception of the universe? And that's a weird question. I understand. The point being is you have to be able to ask the question if we're having a debate, are you in any way, shape, or form capable of admitting that you could be wrong? And if that answer is no, that's when the heated arguments begin and never end because It's not that they don't understand your point of view, is that they can't understand your point of view because in their universe, you are 100% wrong. That's the parallel universe is that's the whole Democrat Republican thing. I'm not bringing politics into this. I'm just saying they always do this. Like wherever one's at, they do this. Like whatever they believe, we're against it. Whatever they believe, we're against it. They just keep doing that because they can't understand each other because they have lived completely different lives. It's kind of like people who never left their hometown are voting about national issues. It's like, no, this is the way it is. Like, well, there. That's your universe. That's your experience. Like you live in a small town and this is the way it is there. In a big city, they're like, no, this is the way it is. That's what everyone says. There's millions of us here. That's how we all think. And that's the problem is the perspective and the fact that people are living in different realities because of their experience. Parallel universes is an exercise in understanding and it's something you can avoid a lot of drama by asking that question. It's like, wait. I, I don't want to argue with you. Are you capable of changing your opinion about what we're talking about? Because if you're not, we're just wasting time. If you could not possibly, it's like some if you had a pro gun guy and an anti gun guy or girl or lady or woman or if you had an anti guy I'm trying to keep it across the board. If you have an anti gun human being and a pro gun human being, there is no conversation they could have that will result in one flipping all the way to the other side. If someone is like, there should be no guns, and another guy is like, there, everyone should have a gun. And that reminds me of a man. I was prepared today. I wrote stuff down. I had Gary V down and everything, but I didn't have the comic's name. He was like, he was talking about the amendments, and it's pretty funny how it's the second one. It's the second one they put down. First, they were like, you can say whatever you want. Okay, that's first. That's number one, First Amendment. You can say whatever you want. And then they're like, all right, number two. Well, if you're going to do that, you might want to have a gun because people are going to get pretty angry. I was like, that's pretty funny. That's really funny. You can say whatever you want, but you should have a gun. That's how this country started. Say whatever you want. Probably gonna need a gun though. Yeah, I'm not gonna go where I was gonna go with that. That's I gotta save that for the really weird episode. I guess that'll be episode number 10. I gotta stop putting it off. See if I can get the rights to the X Files song. Probably not. But last thing, not on the agenda. Recently I keep talking about Boil the Frog and is about finding out who you are and it's something I gotta do to find that out is to I signed up for The Voice, the TV show on NBC. I signed up for The Voice. And I'm going to try to audition in December, I think. The dates haven't come out yet, but I'm going to try to be on the next season of The Voice. I'm going to try to do my open role virtual audition, probably with his microphone standing over there, wearing much better clothes. But I got to try because since I've been not going offshore, I've been practicing every single day and I've gotten to the point where I'm like I could make it on that show, I think. I've been thinking about doing this since 2015. So, it's time to try. It's one of those I remember a long time ago a guy named Prince. It's either Ia or EA. It was the letters EA, Prince EA. He put out a video and he was like, so many senior citizens were in hospice, were interviewed, and every they did a poll and they said, what is your biggest regret? And usually the people's answers were things they didn't do, not stuff they did do. It's like it's usually stuff they didn't do, never tried, never never really tried. So I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. I think I can do it. I'm like I said, I've been in one form of isolation or the other for the last 30 years, so I'm a little gun shy, but I'm getting there. I'm gonna start singing in front of more people, maybe even here. Not right now. I'm not ready for that yet. Part of going on The Voice was this show, this comfort zone exercise. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go live in front of other people, and I'm gonna get over that I'm live in front of people thing for that chance. So I texted that to my wife Jen, and I was like, I'm terrified, but I'm gonna do it anyway, and that's comfort zone. Is you're gonna do what you don't want to do. So I'm gonna give that a shot. I'm gonna do my best, and we'll see what happens. But thanks for hanging out again with me. If you have any questions, send me a message. Remember, challenge yourself, or the world will. I'd rather face adversity on my own terms.